Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Today we're going to be going over a PvE Soulbeast power build, mostly focused on the greatsword, but our second weapon set is going to be double axes. Now Guild Wars 2 just had a balance update, so wanted to update this build here and let you all know that, yep, it's still insane and it absolutely cooks. Which means it's going to be great in every PvE activity, open world, raid, fractals, and of course CMs. And it's really easy to use. So if this is your first time with the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And yeah, let's get started. We're going to be moving kind of quick today. Now, really quickly going over our traits. The specializations we're going with is Beast Mastery, Skirmishing, and of course, Soulbeast. With Soulbeast here, we're going to be able to merge with our pet. And for the first column here, I would go with Live Fast to give us those offensive boons of Fury and Quickness. We're also going to get Furious Strength, just more damage on top of that. This second column here, I'm going with Essence of Speed. We're also getting our second or third passive here, which is going to be twice as vicious. Again, just more damage, 7%. And for this last column here, I actually think you have a couple choices here. I think Oppressive Superiority is kind of just the default go-to because it's just flat damage, right? You don't have to think about it. But in a group setting, leader of the pack, it's going to improve your stances, but also share them with your allies. So these are kind of the two that I juggle between. So if I'm doing something like Fractals, maybe I'll go with leader of the pack for a little bit like more spiky damage. But for everything else, Oppressive Superiority, again, if you don't want to think about it, I would go with this. Now, working our way up, we're going to talk about Skirmishing now. Skirmishing, the first passive we get is Tailwind when we swap our weapons. We are going to have some weapon swapping going on. We're just going to get Swiftness. For the first column here, I think you have two choices. You have Trapper's Expertise, because we do have a trap, and then we also have Sharpened Edges. Sharpened Edges, it's going to apply those bleeding stacks, which is going to be more damage, but this is not focused on condition damage. So I would maybe go with Trapper's Expertise instead, because that applied cripple is actually going to help out with breaking Defiance bars. So those are kind of the two choices that I'd go between. Your second passive here, Furious Scrape, when you swap weapons, we're granting Fury. That's really good. And then for this third column here, I would probably just go for Strider Strength here. Just default more power. And when we evade an attack, it's going to be granting us Might. For our third passive here, Hunter's Tactics, again, just more damage. But we kind of want to be positioning ourselves either at the side of an enemy or at their flank. And then for the third column, I really think you can only go with Vicious Quarry here. This is going to improve Fury by bumping up our critical chance to 40%, but also it's going to be applying Ferocity to us, which is going to help out our critical multiplier. And then for our last specialization, we're going with Beast Mastery here. Our first passive is Pack Alpha, so while we're in that Soul Beast form, we're just going to get an increase across the board to all of our attributes. And then for the first column here, I'd probably just go with Resounding Timbra, I don't know. What this is going to do is while we're merged, our boons are going to be, the duration of them is going to be extended by 2. Our second passive is going to be Loud Whistle, going to increase our damage by 10%. And then for the second column here, I would go with Honed Axes. Not only is this going to bump up our ferocity, but if we're using our axes, it's going to give us additional ferocity and then decrease the recharge time on our axe skills. Remember, that's going to be our second weapon set. For the third passive here, we get Pet's Prowess. Again, more ferocity. Love that. More damage. Now, for the third column, I think you can just go with Lesser Sick'em here. So whenever we use our Beast skill, we're going to be applying Lesser Sick'em, which is going to increase our damage by a flat 15%. So those are the traits out of the way. Let's talk about our skills. Now moving on to the skills section, but first we need to talk about our pet as a ranger, the ones that we're going to be merging with. I would go with something that's in the ferocious category. I'm going with the smoke scale because it's going to give us power and ferocity. Also, our beast skill is Worldly Impact. This is a heavy damage dealer, and also because we're soul beasts, we're going to be granting ourselves Fury and Quickness whenever we use this. And I'm not going to be swapping my pet too often, or basically at all. Now with our weapon here, we have our sword combo here. This is just chunky bits of damage. And then our second ability here, Maul. This is going to be the skill that we want to spam as often as possible because it's going to be applying those vulnerability stacks. It's on a 4-second cooldown and it's a heavy hitter. Next up, we have our leap ability. It's Swoop. I don't know why I said that. It's also going to give you a little bit of evasion, but also it's a combo leap finisher, which is great. I would honestly avoid our 4 skill here, counterattack. Maybe if you're trying to block and run away from something, but overall this is very situational. Maybe if you needed to break a Defiance bar, but the thing is you need to be hit and then it activates your counter kick. A better Defiance bar breaker here is our Hilt Bash. So that is 300 Defiance break right there. Does a good bit of damage as well. Now something else I want to mention about Hilt Bash here, you can see that it's going to refresh the cooldown on our Maul skill. So the idea is you want to start off with Maul, you want to Hilt Bash, and then go right back to Maul as well, then do Swoop, and then start your regular chain. Now when we swap our weapon, we have double axes. This is just going to be from range, going to be giving us might with ricochet here, split blade here. This is going to be a chunky bit of damage. And then we also have Winter's Bite for our 3 skill here. Going to apply chill, bleed, weakness. These are all really strong. And then we have some more Defiance Break with something like Path of Scars with our 4. You throw this out, your axe comes back to you, kind of like a boomerang. And then for our final skill, we have our Whirling Defense. This is probably the best looking skill because you just sit there whirling your axes around. You're doing a lot of damage, you're applying vulnerabilities. This is really strong, especially paired with quickness because it goes by like in a flash, but you do a lot of damage. So those are the weapons out of the way. Remember, when you're basically off cooldown with your heavy hitters, so that would be basically Whirling Defense here, you want to swap back to your greatsword. Now moving over to our utility skills, our healing skill, we don't have too many ways to remove conditions, so that's why I would go with Bear Stance here. For our first utility pick, I would go with Sikkim. Now when we're in our merged form, this is going to give us a 25% damage boost. This is what you want to do when you, this is the ability you want to use when you're setting up a lot of your heavy hitters. Really good, but also don't forget, because we pick the Beast Mastery trait line or specialization, when we use our Beast skill in combat, we grant ourselves Lesser Sikkim. Not as great as the command here, because this is 25%, the Lesser Sikkim is 15% damage, but Lesser Sikkim and then the Sikkim skill here, kind of going to be your setup for a lot of damage. Now, for our second utility pick here, I'm going with Signet of the Wind, mainly because it increases our ferocity, and that's about it. This is one maybe you can swap out when you're in the open world and you want something that's going to break you out of stuns. If that's the case, I would maybe go with Doliac Stance, but for like Fractals and raid content where you're going to have a lot of stability, again, I would probably just stick with Signet of the Wind. But if you find yourself getting hit around a lot, this is what I'd probably switch out. For our last pick here, for our utility skill, I would go with Frost Trap. This does a chunky bit of damage, but also is going to apply chill and triggers cripple as well. Going to help out with those Defiance breaks. These are all really good, but again, I think Signet of the Wild, this is one you could probably swap out for some stability, for some stun breaks. Now for our elite skill, I just go with one wolf pack. This is just an increase to your damage overall. So you would pop your stance, you pop Sikkim there, and then you just go to town with your weapon abilities, pop Worldly Impact, and yeah, it does a lot of damage, guys. Now before we get to damage testing, some of you don't know where the aerodrome testing area is. So I'm in Lion's Arch here, and it's just right here, right behind, I believe this is the World versus World gates, and you can actually just go straight to the training area. This portal, through this portal here on the far left. Go through here and you enter it. You can also just go to the aerodrome and it's going to be in the back corner, but this is, I think, a little bit quicker if you're already in Lion's Arch. Some of y'all didn't know where this was, so I figured I pointed out in this video here, but let's get to some damage testing. And actually, before we set this up, let's just talk about our gear real quick. The stats that we're shooting for, just the damage stats, power damage. So I'm going with Berserker, make it really simple. The rune set that I'm going for is the Scholar rune set. This is just kind of the default one you go with if you're just doing power DPS. Weapon wise, yes, obviously we're going with our greatsword. We have our double axes here. I actually don't have any sigils on these two, but the sigil that you'd want to be going for, aim for something like the Superior Sigil of Force, and maybe like the Sigil of Air or the Flame Burst one. And I actually do have a Superior Sigil of Fire and Force that I could put on these, but guys, I am working on my legendary axe, or actually I have all the materials ready. I just need to actually just stream it and how you create a legendary weapon, but we'll see how much damage we can pump out, because we are leaving 5% damage plus our Superior Sigil of Fire here off the table. And let's see what we can do. Let's spawn our golem here, and then let's grab our boons, because in group content, guys, you are just flooded with all these boons. And if you're not, you maybe need to look at your party composition, especially if you're in CM content. If it's like, you know, open world or just something that's like face roll, getting all these boons, you're not going to notice them whether they're on or not. It's more for like higher level fractals and then raids. But we have all our boons. Let's see how this build does now after the patch. Let's pop one wolf, our elite. Strong opener here. Damn, I think I kind of messed up at the end there, but you can see, wow, we did 28k. We also didn't use any food either. We could easily be over 30k with this build. That is awesome. Yeah, guys, after the patch, Soulbeast here, power DPS for PvE content. It's really good, really easy to use too. Not a lot of thought process going into. I'm just popping all of my big cooldowns with a little bit of even like rotation tuning and being familiar with the build. Yeah, easily 30k with a little bit of practice. But okay, yeah, that's the build. That's the video. I think you could probably switch out the greatsword here for hammer if you prefer that. But with my ranger in this build, yeah, I just like the greatsword mostly for the aesthetic. But you can see there, plenty of damage. And yeah, this after the patch, this is still a really good build. Anyways, y'all, if you made this far, I appreciate the hell out of you, and I will see you next time. Peace and take care.